designed for very violent crime, criminal investigations, mostly homicides. Recently, the state of Illinois expanded the requirement for law enforcement to record a variety of different interviews and interrogations on a variety of different crimes now. So we expect to be using the system quite often in the very near future here, so we have a need to upgrade that system to be in compliance with state law. And also, I'll point out on our sheet here at this page, we did have a proposal for a police canine unit with equipment. I should tell you that right now that is in the very preliminary stages. We're doing some research. We have not made any final decisions. Certainly that final decision is up to the board, but we're not prepared to move forward to make a recommendation either way on that process as we continue to look at that particular program. But we felt a need to plug it in the budget in looking at the future. If we were able to do this program, we believe that, you know, the cost for equipment would be right around $19,000. That's not adding a new position or a new person on the department. It's actually taking an existing position and making it a canine position. But again, the department is just in the preliminary stages of looking at that. Because of the budget process, we felt the need to put it in the budget. We may come forward and make a recommendation either way to you, whether or not we feel that that's a justifiable expense and a benefit for the residents of our village. Moving on to page 87. As I spoke to earlier about the evidence addition and changeover, we have the need to add security to the system. So that's in the budget there. And as Village Administrator Nick Narducci pointed out, we have a need for some vehicles that's being moved over to the capital portion of the budget, and we'll come back with an amendment for you for that in the future.
Yeah, $89,000 will be moved into capital. That'll be in the final budget that we pass. What we'd like to do is to segregate all those vehicles at some point in the future, and we'll make an amendment to you in the near future. Any questions for Fred? Okay, if not, if we could move on to Max. Max, if you could start with the street, that's on page 28.
Yeah.
I'll finish up the general fund.
You'll be able to see on page 28 the percentage change on each line item. Most of them remain steady with zero changes, and then the rest of them, except for two, are actually in the negative, as you will see. The reason the overall budget is increasing about a little over 6% is because of vehicles. I did include a portion of all the vehicles purchases within the streets budget, and this is the first year, and since I've been here really, that we're purchasing vehicles. A lot of the vehicles in public works are getting older. That's the reason why the maintenance for the vehicles in the past years was increasing constantly. This year, between what's included in the streets budget and in the capital that is going to be presented at a later date, we're proposing to purchase a Ford Explorer, a zero-turn mower, a Woods brush hog attachment, which is for a mower, an enclosed skid steer, and an attachment, a snowblower attachment for the skid steer. And the one that is expensive one is the 7-ton truck. And those are used heavily during, especially this past winter. The one that we will be replacing is 7-8 years old, and again, it's constantly being maintained and brought in for maintenance, and adds to the expenses for vehicles maintenance. So if you stay on page 28, you can go through the pages, but I'm going to try to talk about it by staying on page 28. If you look towards the bottom, you will see that the one line item that increases quite a bit percentage-wise is the one that I just talked about for the vehicles purchases, and the contribution towards those purchases is $125,000. If we start from top to bottom, the first reduction is line item 217 related to the treaties. we're reducing that 33%. The reason for that reduction is because in the previous 2-3 years, we replaced a little over 200 trees throughout the village. That was due to the emerald ash borer. Most of those trees, we still have some in the village, but most of them have been replaced so far, so we don't foresee the same trend that we've had in the past 2-3 years. The other reduction of about 30% is about telephone expenses. That's really based on history. If we look back at history of what we have spent, we made that decision that what we budgeted is enough to pay for all those the phones that we're using currently. The other substantial reduction, a lot of these are the equipment rentals. We're reducing that by almost 70%. The reason of that is because we have actually purchased some of the vehicles that we used to rent, and one of them is actually the bucket truck. Now we own one, we're using it, we don't need to keep renting and spending that money year after year. There is one item besides the vehicles that is being increased, 8%, and that's the building maintenance. When the building maintenance is really the village hall and all the public works buildings. The reason for that increase is because we're adding two main expenses to that total number are the addition of showers in the restrooms in the basement here at Village Hall. And the other one is to repair the showers at Public Works Building 2. Those showers have been there who knows how long, and they haven't been used, and people really can't shower since I've been here. They haven't been able to use them. So if you keep going down a couple line items, there's a reduction of 13% on vehicle maintenance. Again, that reduction is due to the fact that we're purchasing the vehicle, so we expect that reduction, that's the reason for that reduction, that vehicles will not have to be maintained as much during the first few years for purchase. The office supplies is
I'm sorry, what supplies?
office supplies. That's one of the items that is increasing by $1,000. That's because we're proposing to purchase some more conference tables. Those are the tables that are in the room across the hall here. We have about 9 or 10 tables, and we've come to find out that often when we have several people in the conference room here across the street, across the hall, we need more than those, and we end up bringing those plastic tables that we buy at Menards, and when you mix the two, it really doesn't, it's not really good when you have people coming over to this nice village hall. The other item that is 25%, 26% reduction, vehicle supplies, same reason I stated before, because we're purchasing new vehicles. Operating supplies, we have a reduction of 44-45%. The reason for that reduction is in the past, we were able to buy items in bulk quantities, and right now we still have quite a bit of supply in general public works items that are needed for all the different aspects of public works. The other items that it's a reduction is 24% on traffic signage and safety materials. That reduction is really because of grants that we have been receiving in the past few years. Ever since I've been here in Village of Elwood, we have not had a major accident at work injury that was needed to be reported. Most of the accidents are a little cut that you can just put a Band-Aid over and keep on working. So because of that, we've been getting grants, and every year that we go without having an injury, then the grants keep increasing, and we've been very fortunate. I think last year we shared between Public Works and the Police Department about $15,000, those $15,000 in grants, and that's what those grants are for, to purchase safety equipment and safety materials. Hopefully, crossing our fingers, that trend will keep on going. And that really concludes the main changes. Equipment purchases is the same thing, mostly related to vehicles. And so if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Miscellaneous expenses is a big reduction. Again, we're trying to really to bring the miscellaneous to zero. The auditors really don't like when you spend money and then where does it go miscellaneous? They like it when it's actually categorized in a specific line item.
One thing I wanted to point out on the vehicles too is, I think your department's done a great job of professionalizing, I guess, the vehicle maintenance side. You know, Rich Reeves, I know, did some, but Matt Murphy has just been outstanding in the way he manages that whole fleet and that whole garage. And a lot of really skilled young guy that helped us out a lot. Any questions on the street budget?
I think you did a very good job, but I want to just mention on the tree reduction, there's a lot of distressed trees in the village. The numbers you have are fine, but you don't want to lose focus on the trees. I know we did replace a lot, but there's still.
There are, I agree, there are, yes.
But we'll keep that note.
Yeah.
The other, if we could move on to page 108, that is water and sewer revenue. Water and sewer, water and sewer. He's the one with the accent. Again, what you have to look at is in the past, there was always, in the operations side, the cash balance was always zero here, and in water and sewer capital, it was always like 1.2 million. That's one of the issues we have to work on to determine what goes where. But either way, there is a substantial fund balance in water and sewer, which allows us to do some capital projects and catch up, and allows us to purchase capital items. But as you can see on the revenue side, water and sewer revenue, we have been doing very well at capturing and maintaining the billing side of this and professionalizing that. And I'm glad Julie showed up today because she's done a great job with helping us understand that side of it, the billing side. She actually spent 5 days getting training on getting the data from the hexagram, which is our radio read, that reads the meters back into the system itself. And didn't have anybody that could do that in the past. Well, a lot of things happen in between the meter read, the radio read, and what we bill. And there's a lot of things that we're going to be doing and learning from that. So I know Max spent a lot of time on the water and sewer plant since he took over. We saved probably $150,000, $200,000 a year just on doing that. And we're getting much better maintenance now. We have our own people there. Everything's being updated. Everything's being upgraded. And we did the same thing on the billing side. We have new financial software now that we build with, and then we have a trained person that can handle the radio read system. So I think we'll continue to look at the ways that we could bill a little bit about as accurately as possible, get the greatest, best information we can. And you know, the numbers are what they are. You only sell so much water unless there's development. We're not going to be selling more water. And we have a small increase in every year when we increase the water rates 3% a year. It's always a good thing to do because your expenses, your heat, your electric, your chemicals all increase. And that's what we would like to do from year to year. If you don't do it that way, every 5 years you wind up with like a 40% increase. That's a little bit hard for everyone to swallow. But I think we've really improved that operation since we've taken it over on both the billing side and on the operations side. But again, this is one too where we'll make a bit of an amendment, basically due to the fund balance, just to see which should go into operations of the 1.2 million and which should stay into capital. So if there's no questions on revenue, I guess I turn it over to Max, who can talk about the water side and the sewer side expenses.
Yeah, I'll begin with water, page 118. Again, I'll start by talking about the total budget, and you will see a reduction of almost 7%. The main items that I want to focus on is there's one increase really percentage-wise, which is the data processing. It looks like a big percentage, but all we're talking about is $5,000. In the past, we've had zero for a few years, and now we're just allocating $5,000. That's basically the maintenance to the brand new SCADA system that we have installed last year and the year before. Other than that, really, there are three items that are next to each other, items 237, 239, and 241. They're all related to equipment maintenance and building maintenance and system maintenance. And you will see the reductions there anywhere between 27% and 35%. Again, that reduction is due to the fact that in the past couple of years, we have been replacing a lot of the equipment that needed to be replaced, so there's not as much maintenance needed when the equipment is new. The one item that has a 16% reduction is vehicle supplies, and usually it's a contribution from each department towards the maintenance of all the vehicles. Again, the same reason here as in the streets. Budget, which is a reduction due to the fact that we're purchasing some new vehicles this year, so we foresee less need for maintenance for the vehicles. From there, unless somebody has questions on the water side, I'll jump over to the sanitary sewer on page 148. And once again, if you look at the total, there is a difference, an increase of less than 1% in the budget. There's one increase that you will see, and that's item 233. If you look at the past years, you will see how in 2012-13 it was about $22,000, then it went down to 11, now we're budgeting again 18. So this is the reason for this going up and down every other year. One year goes up, next year goes down. That trend is going to keep going for that one line item. The reason is that every 2 years we have to renew a permit from EPA. It's called NPDES permit, and that permit, the cost of that permit is $10,000. So if you eliminate that, then we're basically constant through the years. But that's the reason for the increase. Next year it'll decrease as much, and then so on. The next item that increases quite a bit is the equipment maintenance. This is because we're budgeting within that line item the 2 more shafts and bearings at the oxidation ditch. In the past couple of years, we replaced 2 of them, one every year. This year, we're proposing to replace both of them simply because we get a better price when we replace more than one at a time. So that's the reason why that we have that increase. And then the other 2 decreases are the system maintenance and vehicle maintenance. Again, to the fact that the equipment that we've been replacing and the vehicles that we're purchasing will require less maintenance in the next few years. Another one for the same exact reason that will require less maintenance is 317 vehicle supplies. That's a reduction of a little over 70%. If anybody has any questions on the sanitary sewer, I'll be glad to answer it as well.
If there's no questions, Max, if you could just cover the capital. I know we've been talking about capital. We've bid out a lot of the projects, so if you could just cover some of the projects, Max, I think.
Yeah. Did you want me to cover parks as well? Or?
Oh, sorry, yeah, okay, cover parks, that's true.
Parks, we can jump over to page 200. So there are a few changes here on the parks. The first one, it's a decrease of 15% on repairs and maintenance. One of the items that was included into this line item was the contribution from the Parks Department towards the security cameras. And the contribution this year is only going to be $6,000 compared to between $10,000 and $15,000 that it was in the previous year. So that's a reduction of this one. The other ones, the one below, reduction of 50% on referees and 47% on telephone, and that's strictly based on history. The other line item that decreased is 22% in general supplies, and the main decrease here is $3,000 to $4,000 is because of the ice skating ring tarp In the past, we always budgeted $5,000-6,000. We found a supplier that can provide us the same quality tarp, which we used it last year for the first time for only $2,000 to $3,000, about half the price of previous years. The one increase looks like it's a big increase because it's 100%, but we're only talking about $500 on the printing. That's because we made a lot of flyers and such for the different events that go on at different parks, 5K races and children's garden, et cetera, et cetera. The other reduction of 86% is the miscellaneous expenses, which that goes back to my previous explanation. We're trying to eliminate as much as we can anything that goes into the miscellaneous line item. I forgot one just above that. There's a maintenance supplies. You'll see that goes up about 200%. What we included there are some park benches that will be installed in the downtown area, as well as some park benches that are going to be installed in the new pavilion that we included in the capital for this year. And children's garden expenses, that there's a reduction of about 13-14%. And the main reason for that reduction is because last year we had a new fence, wood fence that was installed along the perimeter, and that was one of the main expenses from last year. Obviously, we did not include it this year. And then from there, unless somebody has questions, we can jump over to capital improvements to 61. All the capital projects are really listed under item 225, and you will see an increase of 16% or so compared to last year. Again, this typically in the budget, we put all the projects that we believe we're going to complete in this year, but many times, even historically, if you look at it, only about half of them are completed. The one project, for instance, that we already know that is not going to be completed this year are the $600,000 for the Walter Strong reconstruction. We're going to push that out to 2015, sometime during the summer. I have exact dates, but I can't remember the top of my head for that project. And the other big number there that you'll see is $800,000 for the 2014 capital miscellaneous project capital improvements. And I mean, they're self-explanatory. I believe we talked about it during previous board meetings of what they are. If you have any specific questions about each one of them, I'll be glad to address it.
If there's no other questions, again, we talk about the budget throughout the year. We've streamlined the process, and what we've always done is try to give you all the detail up front. And it's been our goal to try and decrease these funds. And as Max said, you want to get things out of miscellaneous and into designated areas. Done that at a fund level, done that at a line item level. So I don't want it to seem like we're passing through this stuff quickly, but we talk about capital a lot. We do a lot of capital improvements in the village. And this shouldn't be foreign to anyone, especially some of these bigger projects that we have here. But we do give all of you the detail at this stage. We summarize it, and we also try and put it in an understandable fashion. And we will be also submitting for the GFOA budget certification again. And again, that takes a little bit different format. So the software will allow us to put this into that format. We'll send you that again before we actually submit it to them. And again, I have to commend the team we have here. We got a great experienced team that never goes over budget and has been managing these budgets for a long time. And I don't have to chase people down for purchase orders and the type of things you do in some communities or in some areas. So they do a good job of putting their budget together, staying on budget, making sure we're within budget at year end. That's really the best we can ask them to do. We give them a direction to go into. And to accomplish some things, they do that, and they stay within budget. So again, it seems like we get through this quickly. We have been going through this format for many years now, and I think we got the format down and the pieces together to accomplish what we need to accomplish. So if there aren't any other questions, we do have our final meeting on the 30th. I will make the change in the $89,000 for the vehicles and capital. And then if there's any other questions in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll just sit down and talk about street trees a little bit. And, you know, if you could join us at any time, you know, with, you know, Max and I and you, and we'll kind of talk about that. If anybody else wants some input on it, you know, we'll kind of talk about the street trees. You know, we're not in any financial distress, so we can certainly talk about those and see what we could do in the future. Okay.
Anybody have anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, sir.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.